What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. In today's video, I want to talk about free agency, some of the players that signed over the weekend, and where I see our Atlanta Falcons team headed for this upcoming season. But as always, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll know when I've done Atlanta Falcons content. Hit that like button. I appreciate all of you guys for continuing to grow the channel. Let's get this thing to 1K so we can start doing the live videos. But as always, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So I made a video last Thursday, right after Dante Fowler had signed with the team on Wednesday. I did one Thursday night, and I talked about, I heard rumors that Todd Gurley was interested in signing with the Atlanta Falcons. It was out of the Falcons and out of the Miami Dolphins were the teams that he was interested in. And I just had that feeling that he may sign with the Atlanta Falcons. It looks like the deal was perfect for both sides. He did sign with our team on Friday. So I'm very excited about Todd Gurley coming back to the state of Georgia and playing for our Atlanta Falcons this year. Todd Gurley is a very explosive player. And I do think that he's going to be a mismatch problem for defenders and for opposing defenses, just because he's an explosive runner. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So he's a mismatch for safeties, linebackers, and corners trying to cover him. He's very hard to tackle in open space. And he's a very physical runner. He is one of those runners that's like a one-cut runner. He can cut and go. He goes straight north and south. He does a great job of going north and south with the football. Another thing about Todd Gurley, he's a bigger running back than a Devontae Freeman and Ito Smith. He goes about 6'1". So he's can take the pounding over those smaller guys. But I do think, like I said, this was an excellent signing. I told you guys in my last video that if we did sign Todd Gurley, I wanted it to be on a shorter deal, like a 1 or 2 year deal. This turned out to be a 1 year deal, which I think is perfect for both sides. It gives Todd Gurley a chance to prove that he still has a lot of juice left in the tank. It also gives him a chance to extend his career. I do think the Falcons are going to lighten the load and lighten his carries. I don't expect him to be that bell cow as I talked about previously in my other video. I do think that it's going to be like a rotation in the backfield where Brian Hill is going to get some carries, Quadra Olison, and if Ito Smith stays on the team, I can see those guys being like a four-headed monster. And I do think that we have a chance to really extend Todd Gurley's career and keep him fresh. But he's going to bring that explosiveness to our team and our backfield that we were missing last season. So I'm definitely excited about bringing him in on that short deal where he can go ahead and prove that he still has a lot of gas left in his tank. I do expect a big year from him catching the football out of the backfield and running the football. And I do think that with him in the backfield, it's going to really put stress on defenses where they can't just sit back in coverage, that they're going to definitely have to bring a heavier box, bringing 7 and 8 up in the box to try to stop our run game. So I love this move by Thomas Dimitroff, Rich McKay, Dan Quinn, and all these guys. I feel like the front office is doing an excellent job of building this team. And I think they're doing a good job with these contracts on these 1 year deals where these guys can come in and prove their worth to the team. With that being said, another guy that's signed with the team or re-signed with our Atlanta Falcons over the weekend, Bleedy Way Wilson, who's the defensive back corner who played with us last year. He also been playing with the Falcons since 2016. I love them re-signing him. This adds depth to our roster. He is one of the better veteran corners on our team. And I do think that it's big that we bring in some veteran corners, being that we did let go of Desmond Trufant. I do think he's going to bring that steady hand for the team and help develop these younger guys. Bleedy has been in the league for a while now, about 6 or 7 seasons. He was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. So he's definitely a solid cornerback. I believe his best game of the season was against the 49ers when we beat the 49ers in San Francisco last season. He did a great job of using great technique. He got his hands on a couple of footballs, almost had a pick in that game, did a good job on George Kittle in the red zone, the all-pro tight end. But he played an excellent job in the slot and on the outside when he was using that game because of Desmond Trufant going down with injury. He did a good job on the back half of the season of stepping up and being one of those guys that we could rely upon and count on. And he's one of those glue guys that I think every team needs, one of those glue guys that we can count on to do their job when they're called upon. So I definitely like that signing of bringing him back. Another player that we brought in, I seen yesterday, Laquan Treadwell, the wide receiver, played at Ole Miss. He was also a first-round pick for the Minnesota Vikings about 3 or 4 years ago. Laquan Treadwell goes about 6'2", 200-some pounds, and he's a beast, man. He was a beast in college. He had over 1,000 yards receiving, I believe, his last season with the Rebels, the Ole Miss Rebels. He did a good job in the SEC. A very physical wide receiver, can high point a football, can run a lot of different routes. I just feel like in Minnesota, it never really clicked for whatever reason. But maybe with him getting this new scenery, joining our Atlanta Falcons, maybe he can turn his career around. Maybe him being tutored by Julio Jones, or mentor by Julio Jones, could definitely help him on his career and help him become a better pro wide receiver. Now, I do think that the Minnesota Vikings, they had a ton of wide receivers in front of him, like a Adam Thielen and a Stephon Diggs. So it wasn't many footballs to go around. But I do think with the Falcons that he will play a significant role for the team. And I do like this signing as well. If you go back and watch his highlights when he was in college, like I said, he was very explosive, can run pretty much any route, can play inside or outside. But bringing him in, I really think that it's going to pay dividends, because I could really see him playing on the opposite side of Julio Jones at times, and then putting Calvin Ridley in the slot, which would make it, put a lot of pressure on defenses, because Calvin Ridley is really runs great routes and it's really hard to cover. But if you put Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley at times on the inside and let them play that slot position, it's going to really put a lot of stress on defenses, especially in third and shorts and stuff like that, when you can run those little wiggle routes. And you can run those little inside-outside routes where it's hard for linebackers and corners to cover those routes in short space. And Ridley has great feet, and he runs great routes. So I believe bringing in Laquan Treadwell could really help our team, not only with him being another set of hands that Matt Ryan can throw to, but I definitely think that it can also allow Calvin Ridley to play a lot in the slot. And you can move, at times, kick Treadwell out to the outside, because he's one of those bigger physical wide receivers like a Mohamed Sanu that can go up and, high point the football in traffic. So I definitely think that Laquan Treadwell is going to add something to the team. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about him possibly not making the team, because we have Russell Gage, and we still have Zacchaeus. But I really think he's going to give those guys a run for their money. And I do think that he's going to end up winning either the third or fourth receiver slot. I could definitely see him giving both Zacchaeus and Russell Gage, a run for their money. I do like what I've seen out of Russell Gage, though, down the stretch of the season. Russell Gage does look like he's developed pretty well since he's been on the team for the last couple seasons out of LSU. And he did a good job in the slot of catching the football, especially on third downs. That last game of the season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Gage was really, really big in catching first downs on third and shorts and stuff like that, and third and mediums. He did a good job of catching those underneath patterns. But I think that Laquan Treadwell may be a little bit more physical than the Russell Gage. Russell Gage did take a lot of hits where he was slow getting up, because he's not the biggest guy. He's kind of frail. So I do think if they slide Treadwell in at the slot position, that he's a lot more physical going across the middle. And he's probably going to, oppose his will on those smaller defenders, and sometimes oppose his will on linebackers, being that he's built like a tight end. He's pretty much, a lot bigger than a Russell Gage. Another player that we brought in, an offensive guard, I believe. His name is Justin McCray. I'm not too familiar with Justin McCray. They said he played with the Packers, I believe, and then the Cleveland Browns the last couple seasons. I haven't seen him play and haven't seen tape on him, so I don't want to lie to you guys and act like I really know. It's some of those players, it's few far in between, because I know a lot about football and know a lot about different players, but he's a player that I haven't really watched. So I'm not too familiar with Justin McCray. I am going to go and try to watch some video on him, or see if I can get some footage on him to see how good he is. But I do like that they're bringing in competition. And that's what I meant to say about Laquan Treadwell as well. I like that this year, Thomas Dimitroff and Rich McKay are bringing in guys that can push the younger players that we have and push some of the guys that we've had on the roster. Like I did see that we released Justin Hardy. And I do think that Justin Hardy was a steady veteran. He did a good job on special teams and stuff like that. But to me, Justin Hardy never really developed as a threat for on the offensive side of the football. He did have good hands, but he didn't play a lot. He never had a lot of receiving yards or a lot of receptions. And I just think that he mainly was just a special teamer, where I feel like Laquan Treadwell could really be a threat at catching the football. So I do think that Rich McKay and Thomas Dimitroff are doing a good job of bringing in talent that maybe hasn't blossomed yet, but they're bringing in talent to push our young players like a Russell Gage as a kids. And I feel like this Justin McCray guy that we're bringing in, I think that they're bringing him in to push Carpenter and Jamon Brown. I really think they're bringing him in to push those guys. And if those guys don't live up to the billing and they don't live up to the contracts that they sign, I could really see Justin McCray winning out in one of those positions, in that left guard position, and possibly having either Carpenter or Brown being cut. I do think that Jamon Brown played better than Carpenter played last year. I am more of a fan of Jamon Brown. I just think Jamon Brown struggled with false starts and stuff like that, and sometimes he is slow moving his feet, and he's sometimes his feet gets tangled up and stuff like that. So I think he has to be better and a little bit quicker on his feet. But I do think that Jamon Brown is very physical in the run game, and I do like that about his game. To me, Carpenter last year looked a little bit washed up. He is really, really old. So, and he was battling injuries last year. So hopefully he can come back completely healthy. I don't know if last year was, just a hit and miss year where he was just injured, or if he's actually washed up. So these guys are really going to get a chance at training camp and in preseason to prove themselves. We're going to see what this kid McCray has, see if he can push Jamon Brown and Carpenter, and see if he can take one of their spots. So I do like what I'm seeing out of the front office. As I was saying, it looks like they're really going to have these guys competing. It's not going to be anybody that's going to be guaranteed a position. So they're really going to have to come in and compete game in, game out, and day in and day out. So I hope these guys are out there working on their craft and stuff like that and getting ready for this upcoming season. Now, I'm trying to think if it was anybody else that signed over the weekend that I didn't mention. I think that was pretty much it as far as the players. I think also Rashard Neesman, I think he also re-signed with the team as well. And he's mainly just a special teamer. And he's a great special teams player. He rarely plays any snaps on defense. So I think they just brought him back as a rotational piece. So I do like Rashard Neesman also re-signing with the team. He plays safety on defense. Free safety and strong safety, but mainly he's a special teamer, like a gunner on a punt return and kickoff returns and stuff like that. So I do think that was a good pickup as well. But I'm very pleased with our Atlanta Falcons and what the front office has done down the stretch so far in this first week of free agency. I think we've won free agency out of all of the teams that I've seen, especially in our division. Our division looks like it's going to be very tough this year with Tom Brady coming over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And all of the teams look like they're loading up. The only team I think that has really struggled and looks like they're in a full rebuild mode is the Carolina Panthers. I expect Carolina to be the fourth seed or come last in the NFC South this year. They don't look too good this year, but Tampa Bay is making acquisitions. They brought back JPP. They re-signed JPP. They also franchise tagged Shaq Barrett. And, they still have Vita Vea. I don't know if they're going to bring back Ndamukong Suh. We're going to see if they bring him back. But they had a pretty stout defense last year. So they're going to be they definitely has upgraded their team. Also, the New Orleans Saints have made some key acquisitions with them picking up Emmanuel Sanders, the speedy veteran wide receiver to play on the opposite side of Michael Thomas. And, they're trying to do their thing. I don't know if Alvin Kamara has received if he has been re-signed yet or have received his extension yet. I don't think Alvin Kamara has been re-signed yet. But I definitely expect them to give him a new deal, Alvin Kamara. So we should have a very, very competitive NFC South this season, upcoming season. But I like the moves that the Atlanta Falcons are making. Now, let's talk a little bit about the draft before I get off of here. So for the draft, it's definitely looked like we've kind of did a good job of bringing in veterans. We did a good job of re-signing our veterans. We did a good job of bringing in and solidifying the offense. So in this draft, I expect us to go heavy on defense. If you want to ask me who I think the number 16 pick will be for our Atlanta Falcons, I still believe it's going to be K'Lavon Chaisson out of LSU if he's there. If K'Lavon Chaisson is not there for any reason, I can see us going with Javon Kinlaw. If he's there. Now, I have heard that Javon Kinlaw may have some knee issues as well, kind of like a Todd Gurley where he has arthritic knees. So we're going to cross our fingers on that one. But I definitely think that the Falcons may give him a look if he's there. If neither one of those guys are there for any reason, then I could definitely see us going cornerback, maybe going out and grabbing the kid out of Florida, C.J. Henderson, who is a very good cover corner and can definitely be a number one corner one day in this league. His college tape is excellent, does a good job of covering and tackling in open field, and does a good job of attacking the football. Is a good man-to-man corner and zone corner. I can see us going with the kid A.J. Terrell, possibly in the second round out of Clemson. He is the guy that I picked on my mock draft. I had the Atlanta Falcons taking the kid out of Clemson, A.J. Terrell. Very long arms, very fast and athletic like Dan Quinn likes. But if we wait far as a cornerback in the first round and we go to like the second or third round, I also could see us going with a kid, the kid Hall out of Virginia University. He's another guy that's very physical. I believe his name is Bryce Hall. He's another guy that's very physical, great tackler. Puts me in the mind of a Brian Poole that used to play with our Atlanta Falcons in the slot. But he's a very physical guy, and he definitely attacks the football, doesn't wait for the football to come to him. He plays like he's a receiver. So I could definitely see us going with a kid like him, or maybe even Christian Fulton. If we are looking at that number 16 slot out of LSU, he's another corner, can do it all. Very physical, fast. Sometimes makes business decision when it comes to tackling, but he does a good job of attacking the football and is good, very good in coverage. And then the other kid, I'm trying to think, he's a cornerback as well. I think he was at TCU. I really liked his tape a lot too. Can't think of the kid's name right now out of TCU, but he's a defensive back as well. And he's definitely an excellent guy, good at tackling, very physical, and goes after the football. So those are guys I can see us possibly bringing in. Now, we could shock the world and go with like a Ross Blacklock, who is a defensive tackle out of TCU. He's another guy I had in my mock draft that I really, really like. And I wouldn't be upset if we took him at 16, but I think it's a little bit of a reach if we go with a Ross Blacklock. I think he could possibly be there in the second round, but I have heard his name kind of climbing the boards on the mock drafts, and a lot of teams are starting to like his tape, and they kind of liked what they saw out of him at the combine. Another guy I possibly could see us going with maybe in the second round if we're going to go for a defensive tackle, or maybe even in the first round, it could be kind of a reach. But it's the kid Davis, Raekwon Davis out of Alabama. He's the guy that I really want at defensive tackle. He can play the 1 tech and he can play the 3 tech. Very big guy, physical, athletic, can run sideline to sideline. Goes about 6'7", 300 some pounds. I really like that kid a lot, and I hope if he's still there in the second round, I definitely think we should go with him. But if for any reason K'Lavon Chaisson is going and Kinlaw is going, and we decide not to go with a corner with that first round pick, I would definitely seriously suggest going with Raekwon Davis out of Alabama. I think the dude is going to be a great pro. Very physical, like I said, very athletic, will fit our Atlanta Falcons. And he's definitely that plugger that I always talk about, that big hippo that you can drop in the middle, shut down the run game like a Fletcher Cox, and penetrate on passing downs and really create havoc like a Chris Jones. Very tall and have very long arms, and is more athletic than you possibly would think for a big guy. So Raekwon Davis is my sleeper pick at 16. But a lot of those guys that I mentioned, are possibly second round picks like a Raekwon Davis and a Ross Blacklock. But I think we could surprise a lot of people because being that we did go ahead and get Dante Fowler at the edge position, they may think of going at corner now that we've dropped Trufant off the team since he was cut from the team. They may want to go with the defensive back with the first round pick. But personally, I would stick with the edge rusher and go K'Lavon Chaisson. So you'll have a versatile player, a guy that can come off the edge, and a guy that can play that linebacker position at times and drop back into coverage. Or you may even go with Zach Bond and shock a lot of people out of Wisconsin. And I've mentioned him before in videos as well. He's another guy that's kind of like TJ Watt for the Steelers. Really versatile, kind of like a K'Lavon Chaisson, not as athletic as K'Lavon Chaisson because K'Lavon Chaisson is very, very fast. But Zach Bond is very athletic as well. If you go watch his tape, he's another guy that's like a Tasmanian devil, can bring pressure off the edge, can drop into coverage, can play the traditional linebacker, outside linebacker role like a Devondre Campbell. So he's a sleeper pick as well that we may go with 16. So I wouldn't be shocked by any of these picks. But personally, you guys know who I want to go with, K'Lavon Chaisson. If we do grab K'Lavon Chaisson, I'm definitely going to grab that K'Lavon Chaisson jersey when those new jerseys drop. If we do take that kid, y'all know I've been talking about him since probably early last month. He's been my number one player on my draft board for our Atlanta Falcons. So I definitely think that he could create a lot of havoc if we have on the defensive line K'Lavon Chaisson, Dante Fowler, Tyler Davison, and Grady Jarrett in the middle. Those guys could really wreak havoc. Or if we go and get a partner that we can tag with Tyler Davison and rotate Tyler Davison in and out, if we could put like a Ross Blacklock next to Grady Jarrett or Raekwon Davis or Javon Kinlaw, we could really create havoc with those guys. But even if we do go with a cornerback, or if we do go with a defensive tackle, I still at some point will get an edge rusher later on in the draft. If we decide not to go with him at number 16, if we decide not to go with an edge rusher at 16, I still believe we should try to go in and get an edge rusher later on in the draft, maybe a Bradley Anae out of Utah, the kid out of Michigan. I've been hearing his name a lot, Josh Uche. I haven't watched tape on Josh Uche, but I've been hearing his name a lot thrown out there. So possibly one of those guys in later rounds, but I would go with the edge rusher first thing in the draft because it's hard to find elite edge rushers. And the further you go in the draft, it's harder to find those type of impact players. So I'd rather us go early in the draft and go ahead and get K'Lavon Chaisson or Ross Blacklock or one of those guys that are, high on everybody's draft board, because those guys are really, really hard to find. So with that being said, this has been your boy Jew. You guys let me know who you think we should go after with that number 16 pick. You guys let me know what you think about Thomas Dimitroff and Rich McKay and what these guys have done so far in the free agency. Like I said, I feel like I give these guys an A+ in the as it goes for the free agency. I think that they've done a great job. Another thing I really wanted to mention really quick before I get off of here. This is why I tell you guys, don't believe everything you hear from the media when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons being in cap hell. Thomas Dimitroff did tell you guys early in the season, don't worry. Or early in free agency, he told us don't worry before free agency hit. He did tell everybody don't worry about us being in cap hell, that they were going to find a way around it. And sure enough, they did find a way around it. So don't believe everything you hear in the media. All we were hearing prior to free agency was that we weren't going to be able to, draft or be able to sign anybody, any big name free agents. So don't even talk about it. All we was hearing from the media is that we weren't going to be able to bring anybody in because we were so cap strong and all of that. And it turns out that all of those were just myths. You see, we were able to get Todd Gurley because he was cut. So you never know that you may be able to get a player cheaper than you thought he might be able to get them for, because you never know who's going to get cut. So I think that it's always premature to say that we won't be able to draft a certain player or be able to sign a certain player in free agency, because you never know what teams are thinking or what players they're going to cut. And you may be able to get some of these high players on everybody's list. You may be able to get them for cheaper than everybody expected. And I feel like that's kind of what happened for our Atlanta Falcons with Todd Gurley and Dante Fowler. It kind of just worked in our favor that Dante Fowler really wanted to be an Atlanta Falcon. And then when it came to Todd Gurley, nobody knew that he was going to actually be cut. But with him being cut and us restructuring some deals in our front office, it created that space where we were able to go ahead and sign a Todd Gurley. So don't believe everything you hear. Form your own opinions. That would be, that'll just be what I would tell all of you guys out there is don't believe everything you hear on the NFL Network and ESPN and all the articles you may read on the internet and stuff like that. You never know. I told you guys before, I don't know how to crunch numbers and stuff like that when it comes to the cap. But I told you guys I wasn't worried going into free agency because, Thomas Dimitroff, that's why these guys get paid the big bucks. That's their job as GMs, to crunch numbers and to know how to fit guys under the cap. So they did an excellent job. Shout out to those guys. I don't even give Thomas Dimitroff all the credit because a lot of these signings that I'm seeing, I do feel like Rich McKay is one of the guys that's behind the scenes. That's really he's really helped Thomas Dimitroff bring in these guys. I don't think that all of these moves were straight all Thomas Dimitroff. I really think that Rich McKay played a big part and a huge part in some of the signings that we're seeing, like a Laquan Treadwell, like a Dante Fowler Jr., and some of these guys that we brought in. Todd Gurley, I really believe that Rich McKay is the godfather behind all of this stuff, and he's really helped Thomas Dimitroff learn how to work the cap. So I do give Thomas Dimitroff some of the credit, but some of these signings I'm seeing, these are not moves that in the past Thomas Dimitroff has made in free agency. Usually the Falcons stay pat. So I really think that Rich McKay has his fingerprints all over this team, and he's one of the guys that's in the background helping Thomas Dimitroff rebuild this team and restructure this team. So shout out to Rich McKay. Shout out to Thomas Dimitroff and those guys. Shout out to Arthur Blank, who recently donated money towards the cause of the COVID-19, all the stuff that's going down. I think he donated like $5.6 million or something to help out, help the cause and help all of those that are hurting right now. So all of you guys, with me signing off here, definitely wash your hands. Make sure you're, staying healthy. Make sure you're practicing social distancing and all of that. But I'll holler at you guys in the next vid. Like, as always, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I'll holler at you guys in the next video. And as always, Falcons Nation, rise up. All right, y'all. Peace.